Well, hello there everybody, how is it going today? Thank you so much for tuning in, and we are going to be rocking out to some Led Zeppelin. Before we get going too far, if you want tabs for everything we're about to go over today, make sure you grab those down below in the description. I'm going to tab out the entire scale that I'm going to show you. It's kind of this hybrid scale, and also a couple, page style licks here to get your fingers all nice and tasty in that page style. You can, of course, check out my free guitar course if you want to, the fretboard decoder. That is linked down there as well. But let's go ahead and let's just get the lead out. Yo, you ready? Okay, now you're probably wondering, what am I talking about? Secret scale of Jimmy Page. Well, I'd actually like to do this about a lot of guitar players, so if you're interested in me doing more of this kind of in a series, let me know down below, leave a comment, and just say, yo, do more. I'd like to do Dimebag Darrell, Eddie Van Halen, all these guys. And what I'm talking about is that Jimmy, and this is talked about a lot, but what I'm about to say, I haven't seen anybody else quite explain it this way. Jimmy Page's style is really, really cool. He mixes the major and minor pentatonic scale. He kind of will play major, play minor. And I see people teach it that way. They'll be like, oh, to get that Page sound, you play minor. And then you'll have your, major. And Page did do that. 100% did do that. But what I want to do is, I think that he didn't have definitive lines like that when he was looking at the guitar. I think he was combining them both at the same time and kind of like making like a super scale, to himself. Most guitar players do this. They kind of pick and choose what they like the best out of different modes and scales and put them all together in one. What am I talking about here? Well, first of all, our minor pentatonic, we'll just do like A minor, box 1 for now. So it would go like this. Okay, so 5/8 on the low E, 5/7, 5/7, 5/7, 5/8, and 5/8. Now, a lot of people will just kind of like to play their major, will bounce it down 3 frets. That totally works. But we're gonna do something a little bit different, because this is how I've figured out how to quickly jump between major and minor pentatonics without really having to think about it too much. Because wherever your minor pentatonic box is, so we're doing box 1 right here. And if you know all 5 of your boxes, that's why I'm referring to them as boxes. Box 2, box 3, box 4, box 5. If you know those already, then you will know that each box is assigned a name. Box 1, obviously the first one, 2, and so on. So like I said, if we're playing box 1 of our minor pentatonic, the closest major box to us, and this one happens to start on the same note, is actually box 2. So wherever your minor pentatonic is, so again, box 1, the major pentatonic that's right there by it is actually always one box higher. So the major's always box 2, minor might be box 1. If you're on the minor box 3, then the major box 4 is the one that's right there. So as soon as that kind of clicked to me, I was like, oh, it's really easy to switch between these two now. Now, if you want your major pentatonic, it's going to go like this. It's going to go 5/7, and then 4/7, 4/7, 4/6, 5/7, and 5/7. So you can see we've got quite a few notes overlapping here that are kind of like riddled in between both pentatonic boxes. And obviously the only person who could answer this is Jimmy Page himself. But I don't think that he viewed it that way. Because he jumps between major and minor so much, and sometimes he just hangs out in major, sometimes he just hangs out in minor, but he does it so much to where I don't think that he's, mentally switching back and forth. I think he has created a scale that combines both of them together, which would look like this. So we would go 5/7/8 on the low E, then you'd go to the A string, which is going to go 4/5/7, 4/5/7 on the D, 4/5/6/7 on the G, 5/7/8 on the B, and 5/7/8 on the high E string. Now this is very remnants of like a Dorian flavor kind of mode, but I don't know how much of that stuff Jimmy knew, but just combining these two together, it gives you some really cool things. You have your major 6 in there all of a sudden. You notice Jimmy does a lot of this like, stuff like that. So you have all these notes that are kind of blending together now. So whenever you play your pentatonics, if you're, in the style of Page, he's always grabbing and bending notes. And I think it's because, you know, when you're mixing them, some of those notes don't sound the best, but when you throw that overbend in there, it's kind of a really cool effect to throw on that scale. So that is just combining the first two sections. So obviously what you would want to do, again, if you're trying to get in this page mindset, is you move up to box 2 of your minor pentatonic. Should know the shape because we just did it in major. So you're going to go 8 to 10 on the low E, 7 to 10 on the A, 7 to 10 on the D, 7 to 9 on the G, 8 to 10 on the B, and 8 to 10 on the high E string. Okay, so there's your minor. And okay, where would our major pentatonic be? Well, remember, we left off our major pentatonic was box 2 back here, 5, 7. So we just did box 2 minor, so that means our major pentatonic is going to be box 3 right here. So you go. So you're going to go, was it 7 to 9 on the low E string, 7 to 9 on the A, 7 to 9 on the D, and then 6 to 9 on the G. Okay, so we have that much, and then you're going to go 7 to 10 and 7 to 9. So. Okay, so now we've combined 2 of these, and like I said, I'm going to tab out the entire scale for you. I'm just going to go over these 2 right now in the video because I want to show you guys some licks and stuff like that. But just take that premises there, and you know, one thing that's very key is to use these scales correctly in this fashion, as it's all about the rhythm behind it. You know, Jimmy has a lot of 1-4-5s, like very bluesy, based off some 7, 9, you know, stuff like that. So you can get away with crossing paths. You know, to get that page kind of vibe going on. Alright, so now you got your scale figured out. How about we do a couple licks? But I want to talk about Page's style for a second, because I'm doing it a little bit different. Page, you know, amazing riffs. His lead style is a little bit more gritty, and I don't want to call it, you know, I guess it's kind of like sloppy, but in like a good way. It's just Page made it work, and I think part of that is Page plays with a lot of confidence, and I consider him a point A to point B player sometimes. And what I mean by that is, so he starts in one part that is in key. You know, he might do like a lick, something like that. He does this a lot. He does a chromatic walk up. So he starts out in key. Now he knows where he wants to end, which is in key again, and he doesn't so much care about the notes that are in between that are getting him there. They're strictly just there to get him to that part and to take up a certain amount of time. So if you're doing a lick where you're kind of like something like that, I feel like he kind of like figures out a cool pattern sometimes, something like that, and he just kind of moves it up until it gets to the next section that he wants. Alright, so the first lick that we're doing here is this one. We're going like this. Use pinky if you want. And again, you know, Page would add some grit on there. He'd be kind of like basically overpicking. You know, sometimes to get like that real exaggerated, you know, sound. You know, so you know, feel free to kind of like spice it up any way that you want to. But basically, all I'm doing here is, again, from that combined scale that we used, I'm basically just going 8 pull off 5 on the high string, and then I go 7 pull off 5 on the high. So I'm picking the first note of each one. Then I go to the B string, and it's just 7 pull off 5. So he would do this a lot, you know. And if you look, minor pentatonic, major pentatonic, minor, major. You know, so again, you know, you need that kind of like that grit on there to get the full Page vibe, but that's essentially what's happening. He's combined those two scales together, and it's giving him that kind of more of a unique major-minor sound. So next on the old chopping block, we have this one right here. again, utilizing a lot of these kind of overbend style that Paige does all the time. It's one of my favorite things about Jimmy's style is his overbends. So basically, we're going to go 12 on the high string. I'm bending up a full step. So this is kind of, again, this is basically major pentatonic. But we're going to go into minor here in a second. So I go 12, bend up a full step. Then I go back to 12, unbent. Then I go to 11. Then I go to 10. So then I go down here to that 8. So you can see how we've transitioned back to our minor pentatonic. Now I'm going to grab 10 on the B. Another thing he would do, he would grab his root note and basically bend it way up, like a step and a half, 2 steps sometimes. And then he lets the note fall back down, which then, of course, resolves itself perfectly. There you have that one. Now the next one I wanted to do is basically cover a cool way he walks up. And if you look at these, all these notes totally make sense to what we've been talking about so far. So I'm doing this, and I'm hybrid picking it. He might, and I think he probably just uses his pick. I don't know exactly how much hybrid picking Jimmy did. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think he was necessarily known for that. So I'm picking 4 on the D, 4 on the G, then basically I play a dead note after it. I pluck it with my middle finger. So I go 4, dead note, 5, dead note, 6, dead note, 7, dead note, 8, dead note. I resolve it to 10. Now here's what's cool about this. So if we looked at the scale that we combined, and this is mixing in our blues scale, blues pentatonic as well. So this is major, this is minor, this is major, this is minor, this is your flat 5, blues scale. And then you go and resolve it to that 10. So you have... So all the notes actually make sense when you dissect them. And, basically, Jimmy was a genius. And the final one I want to leave you off with a little bit of flash that Paige would do. Again, he's so cool of slipping these major notes in here. And basically, he's taking a very normal pentatonic scale, and he's just kind of walking it up all minor. So I'm going 7, pull a 5 on the A string. Then I go back to that 7 again. Then I go to 5 on the D, and then 7, and back to 5. So that's very crucial. Get that down before you move to anything else. Now, move down a string and do the exact same thing. We're just out of box 1 right now of our minor pentatonic. Exactly the same. 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5. Here's where he makes it interesting. So, you would think just hop down again. No, he goes like this. We've included our major third. Again, we're working that major scale in here. So I go 7, 6, 7 on the G. Then 5. 7, 5, same pattern, new note selection. You could do this with a lot of them. You could go, so, and then kind of move it down, different ways of incorporating some of those major notes if you want a more major sound. So, then you're gonna go, and it gets to go 8, 5, 8, 5, 8, and then getting like a unison bend there, but you could again spice it up, something like that. Actually, I wish I would have done that now. That sounds more pagey. So there's some licks. Like I said, just map those out and see. I'm telling you, they're all pulling notes out of that major to minor scale all at the same time. So he's not so much just playing in one and then the other. He's mixing them together. Alrighty guys, that is going to be it. Hope you got the lead out. That was actually a lot of fun to make this video. And like I said, if you'd like to see more people in this series, let me know. Like, I'd love to do Dimebag Darrell, we can do Slash, all kinds of guys that we can kind of work our way through. But yeah, it's a really fun to kind of dissect what these legends, what they were doing. So if you want the tabs, like I said before, they're down below. You can get the fretboard decoder, all that good stuff, and I will be seeing you all later. Remember, rock and roll! That was supposed to be like a rock sign, and I don't know what happened. I was just like this. I'm like, rock and roll! Yo, we out. Bye, guys.